I'm looking at issue 1 of This Little Piggy by Shawn, Gabborin, and Carlos López. It's published by Scout Comics, which is a publisher that normally publishes things that I like a lot, so I figured I would try it. I haven't heard of this writer, I haven't heard of this artist, but I like the cover a lot. I was curious. And then right away, as soon as I open it up, I notice a few things. The first thing is there's 2 word bubbles on this splash page. And I know that this seems like a dumb thing to be critical about, but there should only be 1 panel on a splash page at the beginning of an issue because you are very focused on that specific moment. They should have just not had this one. They should have just had that 1 word bubble, and that would have been fine. We would have gotten the exact same amount of information, and it wouldn't have felt like 2 moments being crammed into 1. On the other hand, the coloring here is amazing, which makes sense because Carlos López, who drew and colored it, is a really good colorist. He does all kinds of work for Marvel all the time. His coloring is top of the game. However, he doesn't normally pencil issues, and you can tell. And then once you move into the rest of the issue, the colors kind of back off a little bit. You can tell he worked really hard on that first page to get you hooked. And he did. It was a really good hook. But the colors back off a little bit. They get a little less complicated. The art kind of takes a nosedive. These poses are not that great. This anatomy is not that great. These people popping out of panels when they shouldn't be popping out of panels is kind of distracting. Makes the page look too busy. The inking is not that great. And then whenever we get to like stairs being drawn or rooms being drawn or buildings being drawn, the perspective is wonky. It looks like he just eyeballed every perspective in this whole issue. You never eyeball your perspectives. Always measure them. Gotta treat your perspectives right. The dialogue is just a little bit unnatural. It's much more natural than a bunch of other comics I've read, but it's not super smooth. And then, oh man, there's this cliche bullying. The bullying that takes place in this issue is very, very similar to Peter Parker and Flash Gordon from the 1960s, which was how bullying worked then. But this is not how bullying works now, at least not any bullying that I've ever seen. It's just, it's cliche, and it's not interesting. You can do bullying in a fresh way that communicates to the reader that there is bullying happening, and it's a real problem, but it's not the same bullying that we've seen in every movie, and every comic, and every TV show for our entire lives. And I was honestly pretty disinterested in the issue as a whole until we got to the part with the pig mask. The first time he shows the pig mask, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then it's kind of boring again, and the perspectives are wonky, and things look like they're a ton of action when they shouldn't have that much action. They're just regular things happening. It's not action. It's all set up, and it's kind of transparent setup, but that's okay. You know we're getting somewhere. We're gonna get there. And then halfway through the issue, there's the first, oh, kind of moment. You start to get the idea of where this is going, and it's like, oh, that's pretty dark. You realize that some of these characters we've been introduced to are not going to make it out of this story. And I think we're supposed to really care about the characters, like we're supposed to care about these people that are pretty obviously going to die. But I just don't. I don't really care about him. I know I should. I know he really wants me to, but it just isn't there. I just don't care much. And then the characters who we're pretty sure are going to do the killing make a bunch of mistakes that killers shouldn't make, you know? It seems like they've been doing this a while, at least in the continuity of this story, but they shouldn't have done these things if they want to get away with it. And then it gets real dark real fast, and I don't like the shots that they chose. I wish they were giving us very specific different information in each panel, because I still feel removed from the story. I would be much more afraid, which I think is what they want. They want us to be afraid, and I would be much more afraid if they chose different details to give us, because suspense is built on what you don't know. So they're giving me too much information, and I know too much. So I'm not quite as scared as I should be. And then right towards the end you have another, oh, moment, and I'm not gonna give it away, because honestly, I'm interested now. I think this is worth buying now. Halfway through the issue, I think this is worth my money. And then the dialogue is weird, and it's like, you gave them a what? And then the killer is like, oh, by the way, you have a chance of surviving this. They do? I get that we, the readers, need to feel like they could possibly make it out, but you just revealed who you are to these people that you're saying might get away from you, and they know you? Nah, dude. You gotta either not let them know who you are, or you gotta take care of them and be sure that you're taking care of them. This is, I would be a better serial killer than these guys. Come on. And then the cliffhanger is interesting. I care about the cliffhanger. I want to know more. So it had a really weak start, but then it really picked up in the middle and the end. And it felt a little bit rushed to get to that part where we'd have a good cliffhanger, but I know that there's a lot of pressure to get to that cliffhanger in the first issue, and you want to set up the characters, and you want to set up the setting, and you want to set up the mood, and there's a lot of work to do in the first issue without making it feel like just preface, and that's tricky. That is really hard. So because I care about where this is going, I'm okay with it starting out a little bit stiff. I don't love the art. Colors are great. Don't love the art in general, style, though. But this doesn't seem like Shawn Gabborin's masterwork that he's waited his whole life to tell. This feels like another cool story he felt like telling, and then he'll tell another one, and then he'll tell another one. He's done a bunch of stories about spooky stuff or creatures, and this fits in that vein pretty well. So he's probably just telling as many stories as he can and seeing what works. And that's okay. They don't all have to be 10 out of 10s. Have you seen how many comics Jeff Lemire is putting out? Those are not all 10 out of 10s. So I think, to be fair, I'm gonna give it a 6, maybe 7 out of 10. I feel like 6 is probably more appropriate, just because the art is... I am not here for this art. The storyline picked up. I'm not a huge fan of the dialogue, but I like where the story in general is going, so the premise is really doing all the work here. Yeah, 6 out of 10. Did you read it? What'd you think? Let me know in the comments. Today's question comes from Billy Demovsky, and he wants to know, what is the first comic you ever bought? I don't remember. I know that really early on, one of the first comics that I bought was the first appearance of Spider-Man 2099, but it's also one of the only comics I've ever given away, like right before the movie was announced, because I'm stupid.